think in terms of engagement of African people in spaces of what we call establishment academia and Pan-African Operations Commission in Europe, and the Stop the Manganese campaign, we talk about these spaces as prime scenes of the manganese. These spaces as that of establishment academia. We come, and let's be clear, some of us have passed through institutions like this, have the degrees others have consciously chosen not to work in these spaces. Not because we can't, because we don't think this is where we can best deliver to our people the intellectual service that they struggle with. But there are also others who can. Others like Kehinde and Sonia and others who are in establishment academia. We say from our basis in our communities, from the grassroots academia basis we have in our community, where knowledge continues and has continued to be produced by our scholar activists, those who are Euro-literate and those who are not Euro-literate. We bring into these institutions the knowledge we produce with confidence that is what is best for Africa. And let nobody say that unless European standards are used to measure our knowledge, they are not worth it enough. Because there are even European scholars who are now beginning to challenge the cognitive injustice of that and advocating for universality. So let's be clear about it. Let us let our people know that the knowledge that is needed to dismantle the master's house can only be the knowledge produced outside the master's house. And we must be very confident in the potency of our knowledge production to destroy the master's house. Because this house has to be destroyed. And this is what Walter Rodney, one of the best quintessential scholar activists who operated in the spaces of grassroots academia as well as established academia, talked about in terms of the guerrilla intellectual. Read Walter Rodney on the guerrilla intellectual and you understand it. But we also have to connect the work that people like Kehinde are trying to do, opening up these spaces, to these spaces of grassroots academia. Also with initiatives like what Nana Nketi and some of our colleagues in West Africa are trying to do in establishing a Ghana International Center of communities, educational institutions, and museums studying African history, with a project at the University of Cape Coast. To that effect, and this center is based in his palace, in Escala. So we need to make those connections, because the mistake that keeps being made by some of the few progressive scholars from our community coming to establishment academia is they think this is all that there is. And they don't use the opportunity to cement their position in establishment academia by rallying our communities around them and connecting their work into independent spaces in our own African communities. So let's work with Kehinde and others to build that connection. Kehinde is talking about extending this to a conference, follow-up conference in Africa, and Nara is here to welcome that initiative that they will be prepared to co-host that in Ghana. But we also have to work for the establishment of Pan-African scholar activists roundtables in Black Studies to discuss policies that governments are producing relevant to us, but which we don't have any community scholar activist responses. And we leave it to the mainstream political parties and the people who are misrepresenting us in those spaces to be saying all kinds of things that don't mean anything to us. So the challenge is for our community activists and those scholars here, for us, let's create policy roundtables, Pan-African policy, discussion roundtables within Black Studies, so that we can discuss these policies critically. And lastly, decolonization. It's become a fashionable buzzword within establishment academia. And many, many people are giving it all kinds of interpretations. Battle of ideas around decolonization is fine. It's fine. But for me, if decolonization does not mean stripping African people, everything African, of Eurocentricity, leaving us with our indigenous African personalities and communities and the knowledge we produce, it cannot be decolonization for us as African people. Because our beginning is our indigenous African communities, and anything that will decolonize us, to return us to those spaces, for us to reconstruct the Pan-African unity of communities, that for those of us in PACO, in GAP, is the ultimate reparatory justice objective of our efforts, then it will not make sense. Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you. We got 15 minutes for questions. I'm just going to let more people in. So I'm going to bring some chairs. So we're going to shift back. You can just shift that a bit. But yeah, 2 seconds.
So that's why we're so sure just looking at the community
Sorry, I meant to move this thing. Let me take this table. We don't. I'm going to take this table out.
You take it out.
I want to take it out. When I say take it out, I'm going to put it over there.
I can put it there.
We're going to put it over there.
If you could put one on top of the other.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be over there.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry.
But you just find it's not mixing.
Exactly.
I become less active. I just write. But I cannot. Why would I put energy there? And you set up something. Then I put my energy there, and that is, I think that's the message. If you are a champion, advocate, people should be able to quickly make that judgment and know when to leave. I'm going to know when to leave and what to do it. And doing it without taking off.
Let's take all your assets. Leave you out. Continue to take it.
But that's why they make it. You know what they do? Like, even in Greenwich, they make it in a way that you use their resources to do what you do. And by you needing the resources, using people like that, free, their gas, is setting some policies. And those policies, who set up these policies? When those policies were set up, do they have it in mind?
Oh, that's it.
Find out those policies are not visible. And these are the people that want to do this with them. So at the end of the day, Because if you're going to work with these people, they're going to take that African to you. They'll feel tired. And then they use you to take the box that they're working with. There's no organization that is doing A-rifle, but actually, this is what this doing organization stands for, but your policy that you put in place does not allow them to kind of produce all sport-based and that's why I don't like it. That's why I create my platform. My platform is for I don't want you to cover that is all this stupid count business and no.
I think we should follow that. I will start off because I want to tie in. I've got in there all straight stuff. I want to tie in the wheels, and then I think and then tie in the
Yes,
because I think it fits because that's what black means. Together, we're actually.
Let me keep saying now, if you're not on the table, you're on the dinner. But I choose not to be on the dinner, and I choose not to be on the dinner, and I create my own table and make them my dinner.
Oh, they really
And I make them my
so you
dinner.
took it. So am I ever eating or I eat? Okay.
Yeah.
I want to eat, so that's all. Okay, now what you're eating, I don't like. As a matter of fact, the share is not nice.
No.
There's too much of it. Not enough like
And I refuse to be used as a number. It's in the Labour Party, they do that. It's time
I said there's no ideal, and I laughed about it, but I realized how serious it is. And the fact that it's just a family, and everything else that they grow at.
Yeah. Well, it just
You do it, you make it seem as if it's serious, right? Which is a good and a bad thing.
yeah.
The people don't. You're not going, you're still going through the hell of it.
Yeah. I am. But I think the good thing I'm happy about that I have this mental and physical ability to switch. To switch that even though I know inside me, within me, I'm struggling, it's hard. So when I go out there, as soon as I go out there, it's a different response. I put on this very face, this scene that I'm equal to the task, whatever you control and make sure, and I'm going to give it back to you. I think that is the greatest gift of all this. From my place or when I go home and sober and instead of tired of this, but as soon as I get out there, switch up completely and that is something that is driving them mad. How she do that? How come she's not tired? Yeah. We throw you on she's coming out.
That's how you like it. Well, it's true. Because people can calculate your best. I think that's how they check out. Without saying that, well, look at the amount of work you do. Do your own life part-time. Do you know that?
I think the ability for every one of us to be able to create our own platform, get ourselves out of the platform and create your own platform.
More of it needs to be done. A hell of a lot more. That's the only way it works.
No, that's the only way it is.
We don't own it.
No. No, yesterday they were telling me the ideas I did in the library.
All right, so we'll reconvene.
Thank you, bro. That's great.
A drink with
I didn't realize because the first time we did for the black kids, for the black kids school, we told them yes. And the kind of, you know, the school at Divine and Mawusafo, they played that policy. And I said, no,
Okay. Okay, so we will have everybody. You have 10 minutes. Questions? Any more questions? The folks. I have 10 minutes of questions. So any questions, comments? No questions?
sorry.
one question.
No? All right. We'll take you free just for time.
Okay, yeah.
Is that okay? Take me free.
Sorry. My question is, what are the roles that Pan-Africa is playing to kind of unify the little small group where each one of us, most of us are community leaders or are community champions that advocate within different community? What role are you playing in terms to unify everyone together to look at the similar issue we are facing and how to turn them into the policy where we can use to challenge people in authority?
Okay, any more?
Eventually, under the Revolutionary Warfare and Kwame Nkrumah, and in that he very strongly proposed that reform on all African people's revolutionary party. And as a precursor to that reform on all African political coordination to coordinate the most progressive and revolutionary movements and aspects of our struggle linked somewhat Sister mentioning the community level. How relevant or to what extent has the Pan-African movement embarked on that task and how relevant is it today?
We got a final one?
Yes, as the first place that people are formed in their identity is in the family. I would ask about providing support for families.
Yeah, all right.
I think it would be good to take as many questions as
All right, any more? We'll take a walk, and then you can respond. Any more? No? Oh, one in the back.
Two things. We know, or we should know, that any long-term development has to start when our children are young. So we have to look at what we have done and what we can do. I know it's mentioned about education. I'm thinking that sometime in the 60s and 70s, we had 12-year Saturday schools. And my involvement in that time in the 70s was that these schools were what we would say Saturday schools. They become secondary school, colleges, and universities. As it stands now, most of the Saturday schools have disappeared. So if we're talking about education and institution, maybe we have to go back to the base of our Saturday schools and look at how we can develop from there. We can engage the families as a practical thing which we can do, which can also be done in Africa and also in the Caribbean. These are practical things I'm thinking of Pan-Africans. The second part is, has been in this institution. I was there last night, and I noticed that we were being fed what I would call dietary genocide. with the food which we are given here. So I would say that
Decolonize the diet.
if we unite Africa, we must then go and beg for the criminals who have robbed, murdered, and killed us for the last 2,500 years, for them to give us their food so to satisfy our and poison us.
All right, we'll take those and then. All right, quick, brief, quick, just a quick.
I wanted to find out if there is any attempt being made to protect the killing or the killing of African people on the continent of Africa. We've seen America is all over the place, and they're now using drones to kill people, and they have done that. And we've seen right from Nkrumah's generation how the CIA was involved. When are we going to have an example of a so-called Hague court in Africa or somewhere that those who are killing our people will also be tried?
All right,
try to be quick. In terms of unifying those working in community, I think it is for those people themselves to try and bring themselves together, both on the, not just in the diasporic places like this, but also in Africa, where a lot of the community work is happening to try to, repair the harm that is really being done. And you see, you quite correctly raised the question about what is the Pan-African movement doing. And sometimes that makes us misunderstand the Pan-African movement in somewhere else, away from our communities.
Good point.
The Pan-African movement is our communities of resistance, first and foremost. It is not people who write in universities and publish books and who, conduct lectures. We become very, obsessed with inviting special motivational speakers, right? And even the likes of Professor Lumumba, who says some quite interesting things, Umar Johnson and co. Fine, but that is not what the movement is, right? The movement is Ogoni people resisting Shell in Ogoni. The Niger Delta communities, the so-called first people of the Kalahari, right? Resisting, their land dispossession. Our people in Colombia. This is the movement. And it has its own scholar activists, it's got its own representatives, and we need to pull them together. The Pan-African Congress started like that, where the people who came to those congresses were grassroots community activists fighting against the colonial authorities trying to dispossess their communities of land and other resources, right? So that mistake we make where the movement is located around people who are writing books and giving lectures and moving from place to place, right? And those efforts don't particularly contribute to strengthening the movement in our communities of resistance from below. That is so connect. And that would be adding to the strength of the movement, right? Some of us, there are structures like the Global African People's Parliament, we prepare to help you to do that. But also we should challenge people like India that yes, these spaces must be made available to support the work of these community activists, and ensure that students are involved in that grassroots community work. So that's about that, which again relates for me to the concept of the All-African Committee for Political Coordination. Right? It cannot be formed only by those that call themselves political parties. Right? It has to be formed by these grassroots organizations working at the base of our communities, coming together. And of course, you see, our chiefs, the progressive ones amongst our chiefs, have also started organizing themselves. There's a Global African Family Reunion International Council with leaders like Nana Ketia the Fifth and others. So that all these, and they lead communities. These are people who lead our indigenous communities, right? Of millions of people, not hundreds of thousands, or the numbers we can count in organizations. These people lead millions of people in our communities, right? And they are part of this process. So we do have the strength. The lack of global coordination is our weakness. And Pan-Africanism was always and is about connecting, bridging that gap. In terms of family support, yes, our families have to be supported as part of community work. You know, the part of the genocide and ecocide targeting our communities is to, you know, separate families from communities, right? And we have situations where, you know, individuals think you can make it in this world on your own, right? And there's a lot of enemy propaganda, you know, which is, at the end of the day, it is disintegrating our communities. Without our communities, we have no strength, right? So families, you know, you want support, yes, become a base for regenerating our communities, right? And connect with the various organizations that I've mentioned, as I said, you know, there are also people like the Hinde, there are chiefs. Connect with them. They will provide that support, right? But there is, you see, there is no Messiah here. Some people, this big business of looking for messiahs, we should forget about it, right? The Haile Selassies are gone, the Nkrumahs are gone, even they couldn't fulfill the role of messiahs, right? There are no messiahs in this. We are our own liberators as a people, period. Okay, now, what else? Killing of Africans. You see, we will die in it, right? Hugh Newton posed this challenge. It is a choice between reactionary suicide, where you just sit there like a dead duck, right? And we have Spartacus. One of the things I liked about Brother Spartacus, which is quite controversial, was he says, listen, there's a war going on. If you choose not to see that war and take sides in that war, for or against, you become caught in a crossfire. But that's the choice you make. And there are too many people choosing ignorance. Right? The ignorance we see, particularly in these parts of the world, is because people have chosen to be ignorant. And if that is your choice, you will be caught in that crossfire. Claude McKay, that famous poem that Churchill plagiarized, right, said, if we must die, let it not be like cowards. Right? And that is the choice we have to make, and you put it very, very frankly. There is that choice of revolutionary suicide, which is that we are dying, and if we must die, then let it not be like cowards. Let's put up ahead of the fight, at least for our freedom. And then we will have a cause to die for. That is still a choice, you know, today, captured in the Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare. And if we disconnect our individual and collective efforts, whether it's in spaces of academic establishment like this, or in our homes, or even in our entertainment spheres, in churches, places of worship, right? If we disconnect our efforts from this fight, you are a lame duck who will be shot dead anyway, right? So that is what, and in fact, let me end on this note, if there is anything else. C.L. James, in one of his books, posed this question. The harm that is going on so much in our communities, who is responsible? You can have the so-called educated intellectual who thinks that this got nothing to do with it. It's just ignorant people like our young people just all down, you know, in the street corners and so on and so forth, right? But ultimately, whether you are directly concerned by this black and black violence that is going on, because on our continent, let us be very, very clear. Like the current government in Ghana, it is our so-called government that have invited the mercenary forces of death. Open invitation like the current government has done in the agreement is signed with us, where the United States Army can come onto Africa with anything it wants, not inspected, not intercepted, not interrupted, no questions asked, do whatever they want to do and go. Is there sanity in that? Right? So it is our governments that are actually creating a situation for this death of our people on the continent. And what we have to do, because they have the gun pointed to those who oppose them, right? When somebody, one of the major political, mainstream politicians talked about resisting this with civil disobedience, he was locked up and was going to be tried for treason. Can you imagine? Right? So, our people have guns at their head, but that is not stopping them from resisting us. But those of us who are here, who don't have the guns at our head directly, what are we doing? How are we going to the help of our people in terms of challenging our governments? Instead, we have this practice. The High Commission has to call some party and we all troop there in our corners. Right? Not question the criminality of their actions in this thing. Listen, we work with some white people who have declared this situation because of the ecocide that our people are facing in terms of not just the slaughter of human beings in terms of genocide, but also the destruction of the planet, which is now Europeans are realizing that ultimately, as the indigenous people of the so-called Americas of the Allah say, if you continue destroying people and nature, you come to the point where you say, your pursuit of money can't feed you. Money can't save you. We are at that point. So they are declaring a climate emergency and they are acting as civil disobedience. What is happening in our communities? We think we are just spectators. It's got nothing to do with us. The destruction of the planet has got nothing to do with us. Okay? So we say, they talk about Extinction Rebellion. That rebellion started long ago with us. With the Maroon communities, with the Haitian Revolution, with Palmares, it started long ago with us. And today, we must see ourselves, the Pan-African movement, in the best of its forms, must be a continuity of that resistance. Thank you.
All right, so thank you. We're going to move on to the next bit. We have a panel now around trying to say what are the implications of Pan-Africanism in the health. We're not taking no more questions that session's done. We've got everybody on the program. Also, again, I apologize for the room. One of the limitations about space is definitely the food, which we did very little about, and also the room. This afternoon we have this room, this evening, and tomorrow back in the big room. All right. So the first speaker we're going to move to is, make sure she's in. Make sure he's in. Hashem Mohammed Yetawe. Hashem Mohammed. Yes. Okay, so the paper is entitled Racial Disproportionality and Disparities in Child Welfare System, a study exploring the subjective experience of black adult males who were formerly looked after in Birmingham. So local, trying to connect that to the global.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hashim Gitawe from Liberia. Liberia is in West Africa, for those that are not familiar with Liberia.
Can everybody be quite optimistic?
I'm here to share with you briefly a study that I have conducted. But because this is an occasion regarding Pan-Africanism, I would like to start my talk with asking a question as to why do we need Pan-Africanism. But before I engage with that briefly, I would like to recognize Dr. Kahile Andrews and his team. Among us also to be recognized is Dr. Sule, who is doing a tremendous job in Birmingham here. I have taken risks by calling people names. There must be most important people here that I don't know. So you are also included in this list. But the question is, why are we talking about Pan-Africanism? Why do we need it? From my opinion, we need Pan-Africanism because colonialism needed justification for the barbarity they perpetrated against black. So because there was no justifiable reason for their cruelty, they needed to construct some, what they call reality. So to justify that cruelty, they had to tint us darker than we are. So in that process, in the project of colonialism, the tinted black stigmatized us in a way that today, up to today, that stigmatization, the impact of the stigmatization is known among everybody, especially if you live in Western society. So we need to deconstruct the discourse, socially constructed discourses that stigmatize the black identity. And for that, we need two things on my count. We need information, as the Black Studies Department and many other brothers and sisters among us are doing, information, and inspiration. So inspiration are those among us in our communities who are informing and leading. So the fight against colonialism, what could be said to be historically over, or the influence of colonialism in terms of stigmatizing the black identity remains. Therefore, we need Pan-Africanism to deconstruct the story and tell our story as it is. So, in doing that, I have looked at our children, black children, in England and particularly in Birmingham. Children that are going into the care system, I will refer to them as look after children. The look after children population are one of the most disadvantaged. And we have a transatlantic experience when it comes to the disadvantage of look after children. But what do we know? So let me take you briefly through what do we already know. We know that look after children are disproportionately disadvantaged in terms of mental health. There are studies that are saying that half of the children that end up in care have mental health, diagnosable mental health difficulties. They are more likely to end up in prison. They are more likely to be in the street doing illegal drugs. They are more likely to be not employed as an adult, not employed, no qualification, not in training. So we do know that. But when I look at the studies, the work, scholarship produced in this field, I realize for some reason that even though African children, black children, are said to be disproportionately in the child welfare system, despite the fact that they are more likely to end up in the child welfare system, despite the fact that they are overrepresented in the child welfare system. You know, I have a lot of slides to show you, but unfortunately I cannot due to time. However, we do not know how they feel. In the field of child welfare, we do not know how these children feel. We know that there are a lot of social pathology among the population. But how do they feel? Most studies focus on combing the studies, the field, what has been written. But even those scholars that decided to go and actually find out from them, they are focused also on two things: what happened to them in care and what happened to them post-care. So the question is, what's about what brought them to care? So in order to know what brought them to care, I constructed what I call the three-dimensional framework. The three-dimensional framework is focused on, the first dimension is focused on looking at the life history of these children while they were with their parents. What happened to them there? Why did they end up in their homes and they had to come into a care system? And what I found there is that black children, and this is confirmed in the field of child welfare studies, black children, while they are at higher risk, or they receive what we call preventative welfare services. So the Constitution, the policies is clear that if I cannot take care of my family, my children, due to either mental health or due to poverty, then it is a legal obligation for the council to come in and provide me with the resources I need to enable me to create the atmosphere in which this child can grow and develop prosperity. But despite the fact that these policies are put in place, when it comes to black children, the parents are stigmatized, or the children themselves are stigmatized. Therefore, in most cases, instead of providing social or preventative child welfare services to enable the family to stay together, these children are removed. But then the question is, what happened to them when they are removed? When I found out as to what happened to them from their own stories, you find out that when the child is exposed to early childhood adversities, it impacts their emotional well-being. But most of the young people that I interview have lived in these adversities for over 10 years before they were removed. So from neuroscientific perspective, the damage has been done. But there is another thing. In schools, these children, the problem they face in schools, and the brother talked seriously about education, and one of the brothers raised the question. Black children in Birmingham and in the United Kingdom in general, their story is known in terms of disproportionately being removed from school, being excluded from schools, harsh disciplinary procedures against black. But we have what you call neglect. You have what you call neglect. So these children are neglected first at home by not providing them the services they need to grow up in a way that they will achieve a desirable outcome. But also in schools, they are not only neglected, but emotionally abused. But discourses around neglect, in most cases, are focused on individuals. So it is the parent that neglects the child. But what's about the cooperative parental responsibility of the council to provide for this family when they do not have the means? So these children are double neglected. We do know the pressure of caring for children in poverty. But policies are made to make sure that when families fall into difficulties, the system kicks in to help them. But for black children, for black family, that is hardly the case. But is that surprising? I think the answer is no, looking at all the disadvantages the black communities face. But then in care, after being exposed to all the early childhood adversities, these children are in high need of help, of stability. So therefore, they need a home environment where they can be cared for, where they can recuperate. But their story ends up badly. when a black child is taken removed from their parent, they are more likely to end up in care homes. I don't know whether you know the story of care home. It's a horrible story. They end up in care homes where they are influenced by other children. They live in big group in those places where they are cared for by those that, in my opinion, despite my respect for most of them need care themselves. But then they are being given the responsibility to care for children who are in high need. So at the end of the day, they end up outside the care system with no education, no chance of employment because there is no skill. Their mental health or condition is exacerbated by the serious, various adversities they have moved in. So, to conclude, I am suggesting that discourses within scholarship relating to child welfare and child protection has to take a different approach. The negative experiences or experienced by black children in schools has to be seen in the concept of neglect. Because when it is seen in the concept of neglect, it has legal consequences for the schools. But it's never discussed as neglect. But aside from that, the council itself, the welfare system that is intended to care for these children, quite often neglect them. They do not provide the family with the resources they need to take care of them. And when they are removed, they are in the care of the council. They are often put in residential care home where their life is turned upside down. At the end of the day, when they are 18, they are no more in care. They are caregivers, and what happened to them? They are on their own. They end up in prison. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening. I hope you have no question. But if you do,
okay, so